Myelomeniingocele is a defect of the backbone and spinal cord. Before birth, the baby's spine, the spinal cord, and the spinal canal do not close normally. Myelomeniingocele is the most serious form of spinal bifida. The manifestations of myelomeniingocele include problems moving parts of the body below the opening in the back, lack of sensation in their legs and feet, poor or no bowel and bladder control, twisted or abdominal legs and feet, for example, clubfoot, too much cerebral spinal fluid in the head, also called hydrocephalus. The educational ramifications of myelomeniingocele include children with myelomeniingocele will need to have series operations through their childhood and school years. School programs should be flexible to accommodate these special needs. Many children with myelomeniingocele need training to learn to manage their bowel and bladder functions. Some will require the catheterization. Students often have a history of hydrocephalus, will experience learning problems, difficulty paying attention, expressing or understanding language, and grasping reading and math. Students may experience difficulty in paying attention or working slowly, be restless, or lose things. They could also have trouble making decisions. The physical attributes and capabilities of myelomeniingocele include bone problems may include curvature in the back, hip dislocation, ankle and foot deformities, and contracted muscles. This could also hinder them in the ability to move from place to place in the school. They will also have to have accommodations throughout the school, in the classroom, and around the campus. Neurogenic bladder. The neurogenic bladder is a dysfunction of flaccid acid or spastic caused by neurogenic damage. Symptoms can include overflow, inconsistence, frequency, urgency, urge inconsistence, and retention. Risk of serious complications include recurrent infection, viscolateral reflux, ectotomic dysphylaxia is high. The manifestations of a neurogenic bladder include urinary tract infection or UTI, kidney stones, urinary inconsistence, small urine volume during voiding, urinary frequency and urgency, dribbling urine, loss of feeling that the bladder is full. Dear Principal Paul, Larry Lawsuit is not legally within his rights as a teacher to review both the wheelchair and communication device in his classroom. Michelle's rights are protected under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, IDEA, and the Americans with Disability Act, ADA. Our school system is required to appropriately accommodate Michelle with every manner of her disability so that she can participate in the educational environment. The ADA states that all classrooms must be wheelchair accessible. Because Michelle is being denied access to this classroom, Larry Lawsuit is not in compliance with the federal law. IDEA guarantees specially designed instruction to meet Michelle's unique needs. Michelle's Individual Education Plan, IEP, determined that Michelle needs an assistive technology device, which is her communication device. She uses her communication device to make comments, ask questions, and talk about things in her environment. Education law mandates that Michelle have access to her communication device so she can show what she knows. Her communication device supports achievement of her goals and her progress in the general education curriculum. The Americans with Disability Act, ADA, and Section 505 of the Rehabilitation Act states that barriers that prevent Michelle equal access should be removed. Therefore, in compliance, the doors to Larry Lawsuit classroom must be adapted to allow her wheelchair access to the classroom like the other students. IDEA requires that our school system provide Michelle a free, appropriate education in the least restrictive environment. ADA states that Michelle should be allowed the same educational opportunities as her non-disabled peers, which is also entitled in IDEA, ADA, and IDEA. And Section 504, all three ensure equal access and promote inclusion for Michelle. Since Michelle is IDEA eligible, she is protected by all these laws. Sincerely, Kent Colvin. Scripted lesson plan will include objective, Physical Science 4. Design and conduct an experiment to determine changes in particle motion, temperature, and state of a pure substance when thermal energy is added to remove from a system. The learning objective. Students will design and conduct an experiment to determine changes in particle motion, temperature, and state of a pure substance when thermal energy is added or removed from a system. Activities and materials. Per group, 2 clear plastic cups, various colors of food coloring, hot and cold water, review safety guidelines whether the water is hot enough to scald, safety goggles, drapers, thermometers, timer stopwatches, and science notebooks. Lesson indentation. The experiment is designed to scaffold the steps of designing an experiment. The lesson is designed to be an introduction to particle motion, temperature, and thermal energy. Teacher must gather materials and have hot water and cold water available. The demonstration. They will watch a video on particles of your world. Crash course to kids introduce the concepts of particles and phase changes in thermal energy. Ask the students the following questions. Is the speed of the water molecules different in hot and cold water? Can we design a test to find out? One way of assessing prior knowledge at this point is to ask the students if they have ever watched or helped make iced tea. Ask what was done to the water before the tea bags were added. 2. Explain that the students will be using food coloring to test particle motion in the water in different temperatures. Have the materials listed on the board so that the students know what is available. Ask the students to help design an experiment to test the effects of the temperature on the particle motion. Guide the students by asking questions like, should we use the same amount of water in each cup? Should we use the same size cups? Should we use the same amount of food coloring? Should we put the coloring in the same time? Allow the students to come up with a plan testing the effects of the temperature and particle motion. Have them write down their plan in science notebook before going to the next step. Alright, materials. Allow for spelling errors. Allow students to use their either cursive or manuscript. Set realistic and maturely agreed upon expectations for neatness. Let students type, record, or give answers orally instead of writing. Avoid pressures of speed and accuracy. Provide copies of notes. Reduce the amount of copying from text to board. Keep written assignments and work area free from extraneous or irrelevant distractions. Review visual tasks and student. Make sure the student has a clear understanding of all parts of the assignment. Avoid cluttered worksheets by using techniques such as blocking, cutting, and highlighting, color coding, or underlining. Keep statements simple and avoid use of metaphors, items, and puns. Familiarize students with any new vocabulary before beginning the lesson. Alert students' attention before expressing key points. Use visual aids such as charts and graphs. Use manipulative hands-on activities whether possible. Cue student by calling his or her name before asking questions. Always demonstrate how new materials related and previously learned information. Using groups and peers. Using cooperative learning strategies when appropriate. Assign a peer helper to check understanding and directions. Assign a peer helper to read important directions and essential information. Assign a peer tutor to record material dictated by the student. Okay, this is guided practice. Allow the students to get the materials needed for conducting the experiments in their groups. The teacher will need hot water, cold water, availability for the students. If boiling water is used, please stress safety. Have students conduct an experiment as planned out in their groups. Remind the students to record the temperature of the hot and cold water prior to adding food coloring. Once they have recorded the temperatures, instruct them to add the food coloring at the same time and observe what happens. Note when changes occur, note the time when they think the food coloring has sufficiently mixed. Independent practice. Have the students explain how the temperature affected the motion of the particles and speed in which the food coloring mixed with the water. Lesson review. Look at the back of the prediction of the step 1. Explain why you were correct or how you would change your prediction. Summarize what you learned during this lesson. Evaluation of instruction. Teacher observation and questioning. Check student's notebook for understanding and completion. Did the student explain the particles move faster or warmer water? Did the student make a connection between the particle motion and the thermal energy? Did the student have detailed and or organized an experimental procedure that would allow them to test for one variable? Accommodations. Provide an overview of the lesson prior to beginning the lesson. Scaffold the steps and designing the experiment, including modeling steps. Assign a peer helper to assist Michelle in gathering materials for the experiment. Monitor Michelle's comprehension and language used during instruction. Allow Michelle to obtain and report information utilizing word processor and the other communication device. Monitor the rate at which the material is presented. Time demands increase the time of following to the completing assignment. Assisting the recording starter. Give a personal cue to begin work. Environment. Use study carriers. Seat student in an area of free distraction.